Got a weird one here today. We got a solo fat guy for the NFL Picks ATS against the spread, Week 18 for the 2021-2022 NFL season. Our record is a, we'll call it a stout. Was it 124, 126, and 4? I guess we're worse than a coin. Just a random coin, we've been worse ATS. But that being said, moving forward, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. For the dates, we just all kind of lumped them together because there's going to be a lot of date changes. I believe there might be a Saturday game as well as a Monday game, too. Don't quote me on this, but there are going to be some changes here. Big Rise on vacation, and there's some severe internet issues considering the weather in his neck of the woods. Yeah, that being said, enough detracting. I am going to be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 6 points. I want to address a couple things, though, in this first pick that's going to kind of resonate throughout the rest of the video. Is everybody almost has something to play for. I actually think when people say, people use it, oh, they don't care. Man, there's how many guys come in? 256 players get drafted every year, 7 by 32 plus compensatory picks. So, let's go, 270, 280, something in that range. Or not that quite that many. Regardless, there's a lot of extra players that come in every single year from the collegiate level, and they're going to take jobs, right? There are going to be some expansions probably to rosters, I would imagine, in terms of practice squad. But that's a lot of, that's a lot of food off the table for each player. And think about it, if you're not a star line player, this is your resume. You want to make another team? No one's safe, really. Unless you're a big quarterback with guaranteed money, nobody is safe. So I do think that everyone plays hard. The teams that actually might take it easy are the ones that are, and I found success doing this in Week 18s, teams that have their position locked up. Like if you have a 1 seed locked up, then there is reason to take your foot off the gas. But in terms of, teams that are out of it, they don't just roll over, they take pride. And that's one of the things too, is a lot of these players, they take pride in their craft and they care about eliminating somebody else, and, I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers can hurt the Baltimore Ravens here. And I think 6 points is more than likely too many. Obviously there is going to be some questions at quarterback, who's going to be playing. I would imagine it's probably Lamar Jackson because he had a small chance of playing this Sunday. So, why wouldn't he have a reasonable chance of playing this? But obviously that means there's probably a small chance that Tyler Huntley plays, which would be a significant downgrade. And one more thing that I do have to address in this first pick, which is going to go on a little bit longer than all the other rest, considering I'm solo. Filling the dead air is a little bit more difficult not to bounce information off somebody else. Is in the comment section, and some of the complaints I get are, why do we release this video so early? It's because early lines are so important. And you can look at our record and say anything, and I'm completely fine with that. We don't bet every game. And early lines, they're a test. They're a test for the book. They're exploratory is the term I like to use. I couldn't find it earlier. So what that means is the limits on these games, on Pinnacle and my account, I can bet $500 to $2,000 per game on the early lines. And you're going to say, oh, the fat guy, that's a lot of money. I never bet any near that amount. I'll get to it. It is a lot of money in reality, but in the betting world, when you're betting, say for a living, like some people do, that's not that much money. You know what I mean? Unit sizing of over a dime is almost the minimum. Like you almost have to bet $1,000 a game to make a meager living at this because the edges are so small. Because even if you bet $1,000 a game, and let's say you had theoretical edge of 3.5%, which by the way would be very, very large, you're making $35 per game. And in the NFL, if you bet every single game, including the 18-week season, let's just end the playoffs, what do you got, 285 games? You're going to make, and say you had that 3.5% edge on every game, which is also impossible, you might make 10 grand over the long term. Anything can happen this season. I've had crazy good seasons. I've had some okay. I've had some meager seasons. All of this being, I do talk about a lot of this stuff, including bankroll management, in the membership. Well, I'll just plug it. That's more of a Big Rye thing to lay out for me to plug, but I guess I have to do it myself. And it is just down below. But that being said, I can only bet $500 to $2,000 per game. And even on a book like Heritage, I can only bet $500, right? Whereas at closing, I can bet on these books $16,000 to $20,000. So what does that tell you? What that tells me is that their information about the early lines isn't nearly as good as it is at the closing line. So if the closing line offers such big limits, and they probably offer even bigger ones, the line is a lot harder to beat at the end. So there's more opportunity in the early lines. And there is a really big silver lining for 99.9% of the subscribers and viewers of this channel, is that if you bet $100 or less, which I would imagine almost all of you do, maybe $200 or less, is you're never affected by these limits, right? So this is always an opportunity. So you should be making, in my opinion, 92% of your plays in this early hour, like between I would say 4 and 6 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays, right? And a lot of your work in this year, this is the end of the year show, so I'm going to go long on this. A lot of your work this year should be COVID-related stuff, is how to figure out who's out and who isn't before the book is, and then punish the books that are daring enough to put out early lines in the time of COVID uncertainty. That's what your strategy should have been this year. And then there are the odd game where, I'm not saying you can't beat the closing line. Like the closing price where you can bet all this money, it is beatable. There are spots. Like, I don't know what the Arizona Dallas game closed at this week, but I put serious dough on Arizona to win this game outright. I didn't do it quite at closing, but I did do it later in the week, way later than I usually ever bet. And that's because the money line, I felt I like taking money line teams when they're 4 to 5.5 point dogs. The reason is I feel you realize your equity better is because 3, 3.5, 6, 6.5, 7, and 7.5 all hover around very key numbers. You either get a push or a win because of the hook. The dead zone is 4 to 5.5. It's not a very popular number. Getting between 5.5 points and 3.5 points is so minimal. So I don't think that it's reflected in the current matchup of money line to spread numbers. So you end up getting you realize a little bit more of your value by taking the money line. And by a little bit, I mean at maximum 2%. I know I'm going long. I know I'm going on a tangent. But the whole point is betting early and betting selectively is, and with information that isn't baked into a line. That is the key to this whole game. And that being said, this is a contest pick. We're going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to bet this in real life at this moment, but it is something for me to monitor going forward. Okay, the next game we got the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. The Jets almost pulling off an upsetting victory against Tampa Bay. What a good season for upsets. You had Detroit beating, who I believe was a League 1 or 2 seed in the Arizona Cardinals at that time. Detroit Lions pulling that off. Who is it? Jacksonville beat Buffalo. Anything is possible here. This one, I'm actually going to be taking the Buffalo Bills against the spread. I don't love this one, but this is more or less a must-win in terms of for the Bills. In terms of securing a divisional victory, considering they are neck and neck with the New England Patriots, both at 10-6. So, like I'd mentioned before, the Bills are a team that don't strategically put their best foot forward when it comes to winning. And what do I mean by that? They try and score too many points. So they're more likely to run up a score or lose. And I do think this season has been a great reflection of that poor planning and poor strategy. They don't run the ball at all. I mean, realistically, most of their rushing yards are coming from, Josh, not most of them, but a good chunk of the rushing yards are coming from Josh Allen scrambles, and they do throw the ball far too much, which is going to lead into high variance, right? They're going to run up scores a lot, and they're going to lose the odd game where they're huge favorites. I think this falls into that category. Do I think the Jets are going to beat the Bills? Of course not. What we're talking about is massive prices, right? Are the Jets going to beat the Bills more than 1-8? I would say probably, right? I don't have the exact money line in front of me. I should probably pull that up. That's the big thing about Big Rye, is having the facts in front of you. And unfortunately, with him here, I do have to do this delayed dead air lapse to kind of fill, while I'm looking up the money line, the current one at least, in front of me. Here we go. Sorry, the current money line for this game is, Jets plus 820. 1-8, more or less, right? Look at the spread on it, though. It's minus 1233 for the Bills. You really want to lay, 12.33 to 1 on the Bills winning this? I wouldn't. However, the question for this contest is, are the Bills going to cover 16.5-point spread? And I think more likely than not, they are. And I think they're going to try and just step on the necks of the Jets. Although if I had a gun to my head, I would put a small play on the Jets money line. This is just going to be a contest pick. It'll be Bills minus 16.5. And now we got the very exciting Cincinnati Bengals on a bit of a tear here against the Cleveland Browns. I love the Browns, but it has been a really, really tough going as of late. The Browns are 1.5-point favorites at home. The contest pick is going to be the Cleveland Browns. I'm probably going to wait till this line matures because I would imagine that the closing line is more than likely going to be with Cincinnati. So for that case, you could say it, but you could argue it, but it's not going to be great in either way. Like, it'll be Cincinnati at most dogs of 2.5 points, or Cleveland most dogs at 2.5 points. It'll keep in that 3 zone. And to be honest, I'm going to just try and bet Cleveland to win, and I'm going to try and bet them at the best price. At this current moment, ascertaining closing value, you could probably get it on the Cincinnati Bengals because of the recency bias. Beating the Chiefs is just such a big deal. And the Browns, of course, have yet to play, as they have Pittsburgh on the plate tomorrow. That being said, closing line value, there's probably some on Cincinnati, but I don't think you could outrun the juice, considering there won't be enough mobility in the line, because it'll just stay in that 5-point net between 2.5-point favorites and underdogs. And if you are going to take either team, the money line would be the play to go, and I think you can wait on the Cleveland Browns to do so. Next game up, we have New Orleans at the Atlanta Falcons, another divisional game. The New Orleans Saints are 4-point favorites in a divisional affair. This will be another contest pick. I wish I could just shell out and say, oh, take this team for sure, but it will be the Atlanta Falcons. I'll probably, like I said, this is another game that's more of a strong consider for me as well. I'll probably take the Atlanta Falcons money line. I'm going to consider that, actually after the conclusion of this video, this will be one of the ideas I have. And yes, the Atlanta Falcons are out of it, but that doesn't mean that they aren't trying to win this game. You think they like the Saints? They just want to let them roll over? Absolutely not. So I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons in the contest. And as far as betting in real life, I will consider them on the money line. Considering, like I said, between 4 and 5.5, I don't think your equity is realized in taking the points as it is when the line's 3.5, 3, 6, 6.5, 7, and 7.5. So it'll probably be an Atlanta Falcons money line play if I do make it, which I will look at the end of this conclusion of this video. Now we're starting to get in a rhythm, a little bit weird when you're just speaking out by yourself. That being said, it'll be Tennessee as 11-point favorites on the road against division rivals, if you can even call them that, the Houston Texans. This is another one I really, really don't care for. I'm going to take the Houston Texans plus 11. There's no science to this. I have to take this game. I don't like this game. I think 11's probably right. It's in the no man's land, though, between 10 and 14. Those are key numbers. Why do I keep harping on key numbers? Because that's what we're betting on. I keep looking off this way because I have 3 screens in front of me, a big production here, believe it or not. I'm being a little bit facetious there. But we are betting numbers. That's what this game is will this team win by enough? That's what it is. So the frequency at which teams win by a certain amount is so important here. And in these contests too, it's a lot easier to make choices because there is no juice. This line doesn't have any juice, right? It's not like choosing between minus 11, minus 11, minus 104, and minus 10, or minus 9.5, minus 133. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing, which you can do. That's something that we work tirelessly on to try and get the math right, because it is important. Every point is important. That being said, this is going to be a contest pick. It'll be Houston. I don't love it. I really don't like this game. This line's probably about right. I could see this going, Tennessee all the way up to 13.5 and Tennessee down to 10.5, but I'm not convinced either way. This is purely a contest pick for me. Okay, and now this might be some of my biases coming through. This is the Washington football team at the hapless New York Giants. Washington's going to be 6.5-point favorites here. I like the Washington football team. I like them in real life. I haven't put a bet down, but I'm going to consider it at the conclusion of this video as well. The Giants are of the most hapless teams I've ever seen on offense. Like, it's just did minus 16 yards passing with 2 sacks and an interception against the Bears. And like, I always make fun of recency bias. I don't know if it's recency anymore. This is reality for the Giants here. It's just really, really, really poor coaching. They don't try and win here. They don't try and even cover, it feels like. It's a team that I don't feel is aggressive enough in any of their approaches, and they just hang on. So I can't, in good conscience, ever bet. Like, the spread just doesn't seem big enough. Like, when a team's doing that, even at home, like, and it's not like Washington's a world beat or anything. They've had a lot of tribulations this season, but I think that, you know, generally speaking, this would be a 6.5 point, like, easy take for Big Ryan, the fat guy. But we've been a little bit more malleable on taking, you know, laying points with a favorite sometimes when there's just severe ineptitude at the coaching position, right? And I just think this is the worst coach in the NFL currently. I think he gave Urban Meyer a run for his money and Joe Judge. If they bring him back, I don't know how, like, I'm going to be betting against them more than likely. Hopefully they play, like, next year. See, this is already things I'm, you know, engineering in my brain. If they bring back Joe Judge and they play 3 bad teams in a row or average teams, you know, where you get, like, at least, you know, some lack of enthusiasm in their opponent, you're going to have a line that's probably advantageous. The Giants are really bad, you know, at the coaching position. They do have some players, but they are just a really, really poorly coached football team. And I don't even think, like, not that they have great talent, but it's not reflected in their win-loss record this year. So I'm going to be happy to lay the points with the Washington football team. And this will be another bet that I look to think about taking at the conclusion of this video. How many times am I going to say at the conclusion of this video? It seems a little bit labored, too. Why did I say at the end of the video? Anyways, next up we have the New England Patriots as 5.5 point favorites on the road against the Miami Dolphins here. This is another one that's going to be interesting here. I might be taking Miami money line. Like I said, this falls in that 4 to 5.5 point dead zone, as I like to call it. This is a concept I haven't, like, harped on this show because it was more in the test phase, and it still is. Is anything certain in gambling, especially ascertaining edge? Absolutely not. But I am more confident to talk about it on the channel. It is more risk, you know, it is bigger risk, but I do think, you know, if you use a proper bankroll management, you can handle. There's going to be really, really bad swings, you know. And there's days, I can't say exactly how, but there was a certain person I was betting with. He beat me 23 out of 25 days in a row. And then I won all of my money back plus 25% in 3 days. Anything can happen. There's going to be, and this is why robots are so much better at understanding probabilities, because they take the humanity of it, because they don't link emotions and I don't know, prosperity to dollars, right? It's just a unit figure here. That being said, I do think it's a better play to take a money line in this spot. So this is another game I'm going to consider, you know, at the conclusion of this video is Miami not Miami plus Miami money line. And if it does get up to 6 and it's good juice, I'll probably jump on Miami plus 6. New England does need to win this game, but that doesn't mean they are. And I think New England's more likely a team that is they're a bad favorite, in that New England doesn't put their best foot forward when they're trying to cover. Midway through the season, the 2 teams that went for it the lowest were New England and Miami. So that being said, I think it lends itself to a game where, like, the bold will have a better chance of securing victory than the odds that are assigned to them. So hopefully Miami can be a little bit more aggressive. Both teams have kind of went on that trajectory because the league is shaping in that direction. There are a lot more fourth down attempts on offense than in past years, and it's really nice to see. So I'm going to take Miami in the contest, and I'll probably bet on them in real life, but I can't sign off on it yet because I haven't. All right, here we got the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are 6-point favorites, who are currently playing right now. I'm trying not to look at the score. It is somewhere up here in one of my screens, but part of that is because I can't actually bet this line right now because they're in the middle of the game. The Vikings are playing the Packers, and there is recency bias. Much like here, I'll give you an example of recency bias. And there was someone, I think it was Adam Chernoff on Twitter, that had mentioned that Dallas would be 5.5-point favorites against Arizona, but that was just on the backs of their huge, like almost historic victory against the Washington football team. And they jumped from 3.5-point favorites to 5.5-point favorites. Now you could say the 3.5-point line against Arizona was off, but okay, but are they, like, think about it. After that game, how are they really 2 points better? That doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? The same team, assuming the health of all the players is equal, the prices shouldn't change based on what happens, right? Like, you know, if you're picking heads or tails, what difference does it make if there's 10 heads in a row? It makes absolutely no difference. And that's why at the casino they put up, you know, think of every, you know, dollar you've wasted on a roulette wheel. Why do they have all the numbers up there? It's just to fool you. You know, there's none of that. The roulette wheel doesn't care what's come up later. And people can school me on the finer points of roulette, but you're not going to be able to beat the juice. In Baccarat, why do they give you the pen and the little, pamphlet thing to mark in? Because all that stuff doesn't matter. It falls under gambler's fallacy. And a lot of us do that. We react to that past game, and we go crazy for it. That being said, we're going to be taking the Chicago Bears here. 6 points is just probably too many in this spot. I really like the number 6. It's the new 7. Even though this is the worst one because we're just going to get a push on and even though 6 is a good number, we're talking like micro percentages here, but that's what this is. We're gambling on we're trying to ascertain micro edges, and I think 6 is just too many points. Will it be closing line value? I think a lot of that depends on the game that's currently underway. If the Vikings do end up beating the Packers, this game could go to 7. Does that make any sense? No. And I'm going to like the Bears a lot more. If the Vikings lose really bad to the Packers, are the Vikings really only now 4-point favorites? It doesn't really make any sense. So you have to think of all these things when you are making wagers. So I'm going to consider this in real life. This is, again, just a contest pick. On to the next game. We have Dallas at Philadelphia. Dallas being 3.5-point favorites at the Philadelphia Eagles in another divisional matchup. A game I'd really like to see. I don't have too many thoughts on this game. This is that sweet spot where I can't help but take the Philadelphia Eagles. I get home field advantage, which is waning, by the way. Really negative trend line over the years. And but I do get that 3.5. 3 is the most likely number that 3 is the most key and frequent number that teams win by, most combinations. That half point is just super valuable. Is it valuable if Dallas is truly a 5-point favorite? No. But I do think that there is going to be some more negativity and on Dallas and some recency bias on Philadelphia. And I could see this settling on 3. I think that would make a lot more sense. So that hook's going to be all the more valuable. And in the contest, I don't have to pay any juice on it. But the book does this thing where it obfuscates pricing to get action on different sets of numbers, right? Like they might do Philadelphia plus 3.5 minus 104, and then and then Dallas minus 3 at minus 122, something like that, or 118. They might try and confuse you by just shifting the juice around with the number, even though 3.5 at a certain juice is the same as 3 with a certain juice. Obviously, you're gonna, you pay less juice if you're Dallas if you're laying the 3.5 than you are the 3. But it's the exact same thing in practice, right? But sometimes there is, that oddly enough is some of the weaker sports books, they'll use the exact same point differential, like the same juice for 3 to 3.5. No matter what team's playing, and it doesn't really work that way. So there are some edges out there for you guys that are math inclined to kind of understand, especially when you take into consideration the over-under. Even though I will admit the last few years, over-under hasn't had a very strong correlation in terms with how the value of points in a spread, oddly enough. That being, sorry, I'm giving away a lot of trade secrets here, but I do speak in a different language sometimes. It feels like a lot of friends tell me that anyways. This is going to be a contest pick. It's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles plus 3.5 currently. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers, who are 16.5-point favorite, 16.5-point underdogs. I hope they're not favorites, on the road against the defending Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here we go. We're going to do this another contest pick. Huge spread, huge dog. The Bucs are 16.5-point favorites. Is there going to be closing line value in this game? I'm not really sure. Carolina has a lot of dysfunction, a lot of bad reports, which, is there smoke, there fire? Not necessarily, but there's still a football team that wants to compete. 16.5 points is too many. I'm just going to take us in the contest. It's not scientific because when in doubt, take the points. I don't have much to add here other than touchdown Tom getting it done in a comeback and near upset loss to the hands of the New York Jets. This is going to be a contest pick, Carolina plus 16.5. And now we have another divisional game, as most of these seem to be. Indianapolis, most of these, all of these. Why do I keep saying that? I just looked them all through. Traditionally and currently, all these are divisional matchups. We have Indianapolis at the Jacksonville Jags. Jags are 14.5-point underdogs. I don't know if you can make this number big enough. You know what I mean? The one thing, though, is I love Indianapolis from a coaching perspective. This is one of the best coach teams, if not the best coach team in the National Football League. They understand, and they understand that, like, running the ball, you know what I mean, when you're up effectively is a nail in the coffin for your opponent. And not even running the ball necessarily, but sustaining long drives. You're cutting out possessions, you win. Indianapolis does it, I think, the best. They do. So why does that matter? Because we're betting on how much if they can win by 15 or more. That's why if they're up by Jacksonville and 14, are they really going to step on the throat? You know what I mean? In the fourth quarter, or are they just going to try and do like a 7-minute drive and kick a field goal and call it a day, right? Or not go for it on fourth, turn the ball over in the red zone, something like that. Not that would be your idea when you go for it on fourth down, but it could very well be a byproduct. And the Jags have been just extremely hapless, with no real figurehead at the coaching positions here. So this is a difficult one. I would never bet this one. I bet you, though, if you study these situations, there is probably some really good simulations that you could do, if you were a hardcore math person, in understanding how many positions and the coaching decisions that they would make therein. Because Jacksonville doesn't really try and win, so they're a really bad underdog to bet. And I despite having that Buffalo win, I even endorsed that one too. But not that I didn't actually bet that one. I only bet the Detroit Arizona one. I didn't bet the Jacksonville Buffalo one. That made me a little bit more steadfast in my results based in my belief about Buffalo being a big cover or a loser. That being said, this is pretty hapless. It'd be hard for me to wager dollars on Jacksonville. That being said, we're going to take them in the contest because when in doubt. But this is, again, unscientific, purely a contest pick. Jacksonville Jaguars. I am not going to bet on real life, but I do think there is a possibility to game this situation. Or maybe bet quarters too, because that's another thing. The derivative market is very interesting, especially in this week 18. The books are a little bit sharper now, but like teams' motivations do change sometimes throughout the game. So you might be able to get pricing that would normally be a reality, which isn't going to be in practice because of the motivations during the game on week 18, not when you make your pregame decisions. On to the next game. We have Green Bay at the Detroit Lions. Green Bay minus 11. Green Bay Packers are currently playing right now, so I'm recording this as they're playing, so full disclosure. The pick is going to be the Detroit Lions plus 11 points, whereas, again, this is a when in doubt, take the points. I don't love this week, but there are some interesting observations, and I should have, in reality, this is a knock on myself and Big Rye. We should have done more work over the past years in understanding more opportunities in terms of the week 18 anomaly, let's call them. There are some spots that we do know of, but we don't take advantage. And again, some of these spots are, at least I think they're so niche that you can't exactly share them, but they are there for people that want to do their own inferences and investigate themselves. I think Detroit's a team, though, that more or less just tries to win every game. They had an onside recovery against Seattle. Yeah, they got thumped, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. You know what I mean? They still put up 29 points here? They lost, 51-29. You can tell me 29 points isn't trying for this Detroit Lions team. This is a garbage roster. It's completely garbage. But the effort is completely there in terms of actually trying to win games. And people say, I've heard this from some of the YouTubers, well, they put in the same effort as the other teams. Maybe so, but not in the decisions, You can't tell me that Houston and Jacksonville and New York Giants and Jets for that matter have been even in the ballpark of aggressiveness to try and win games like the Lions have. And what's the difference if you're the New York Giants, who are 4-12, and you're the Detroit Lions, who are 2-11-1? Like, what's the difference? The Lions tried to win games. They were a lot closer in a lot of games against better teams, much like against the Ravens, and probably the greatest kick of all time. Actually, the greatest kick, I'll definitively say. And then also against the LA Rams, and they beat the Arizona Cardinals, who were number 2 seed in the NFL. Like, this is a team that at least puts a decision forward. We're going to try and win despite not having the horses to do so. So this might be a team that this might be an interesting money line to bet. Again, this is probably going to change based on whether the Packers win against the Vikings or not. Because I think the Packers lock up a 1 seed if they do have a victory. They are first in the NFL. They have the most wins. So I think they lock up a 1 seed. So if they win this Vikings game, a Lions victory might be the way to go. I think this spread will come down drastically, though, if the Green Bay Packers win. So this is one of those situations. But I would try and bet as early as possible when this game concludes, the Vikings-Packers game, if the Packers are victors, to bet on the Lions more or less, assuming that you get a good price. You still want plus money. You really, really do. And that the Packers might still come out with a full roster, right? But they might take it off. They might take Rodgers out of the first. He might give his little baby toe a week off. That being said, in the contest, it's going to be Lions plus 11. But I don't mind an attempt at an upset at a really nice odd set in taking the Lions in real life. I'll take a look at it at the conclusion of the Vikings-Packers game. On to the next one. We have the Los Angeles Chargers as 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. I had my Raiders on earlier, then I went with San Jose State today. I'm really glad I did. Not much betting information in a lot of these games. I didn't touch on the New England being 86% of the money, and this is one where it's 99-1, so there's probably 80 bets. Unfortunately, Big Rye's not in front of me looking through the orb to let me know whether that's true or not. That being said, we're going to take the LA Chargers on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think 2.5 points is a fair price to lay. I think this should be LAC -3. I've already taken them in real life. I do like them. Sorry, you lost me on here. You're just going to get audio from here out. I do like them at laying 2.5 points, and I think that is a reasonable price. I think this should be LA -3, -112 is what I think should be the closing line. So I think you can ascertain some realizable closing line value in the Los Angeles Chargers. Next up, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 3.5-point favorites on the road against the Denver Broncos. Kansas City coming off a disappointing loss. Again, thrilling games, really, really thrilling games against the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to be 3.5-point underdogs against the Denver Broncos, like I'd mentioned. Broncos, who they had Drew Lock playing at quarterback, and he did get injured, but he did come back in. Again, they do have something to play for despite being out of it, I believe. I'm not sure if they're mathematically eliminated, but I don't see... they are after this loss. They have to be. Again, I don't have it right in front of me, but they're 7-9. They're not getting in. That being said, the Chiefs are 11-5, and they've locked up this division, so they might take it off. And that being said, they might ease up. They might even not play Mahomes the entire time. So 3.5-point favorites on the road in Denver. This is an easy pick with the hook. I think the Denver Broncos. I didn't actually get money down on it, and I'm going to be doing that at the conclusion of this video. I like the Broncos. I like plus 3.5 points. So we're running through them here because you can't see me. Okay, San Francisco 49ers at the LA Rams. The Rams are 6.5-point favorites at home in this another divisional matchup, as they all are. We're going to be taking the San Francisco 49ers plus the 6.5 points. Niners are 9-7, whereas the Rams are 12-4, and I believe have the division locked up. Let me just see to be sure. No, they don't. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is with the Cardinals, but they do have 1 win, 1 loss, so I'm not sure what they are. Cardinals are 8-1 away. I can't even believe that. So you can't say there isn't a must win. The Rams are most certainly their intention is to win the game, so you can't say it isn't. And same with the 49ers as well. I think 6.5 points is probably a little bit too much. I think this is like more like Rams -4, Rams -4.5. I'm not going to take San Francisco on the money line, but I'm going to consider them in real life against the spread because of that hook on the 6.5. Could it close at Rams -7 or 7.5? That's possible, but I don't want to miss out on like this hook. I don't want to go San Fran +6, or dare I say it, San Fran +5.5, which I would just take them on the money line then, or probably not at all because I just missed so much value. I'm going to be taking the 49ers in the contest, 6.5 points, and I'm going to consider it in real life. And finally, our last matchup here is we have the Seattle Seahawks on the road against the Arizona Cardinals as 6.5 point underdogs. The Seahawks coming off a thumping of the Detroit Lions, and a nice win for the Fat Guy's pocketbook with the Cardinals beating the Dallas Cowboys on the road. Could barely get that out. Once you talk for running 35 minutes now, sometimes the free thinking, the free flow of speech doesn't exactly hit the mark here. That being said, we're going to lay the 6.5 points with the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know how this is a similar matchup to the last one. Like, I think there's a pretty big gap between San Francisco 49ers, the LA Rams, and the Arizona Cardinals, and the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't really see this as congruent. I think that the Arizona Cardinals are more likely to cover this spread. I don't mind laying the 6.5, despite that pesky number of 6 and the pesky Seahawks. Okay, so now we're going to go to the lightning round. Pittsburgh +6, Buffalo -16.5, Cleveland Browns -1.5. I don't know why I'm doing that. The Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans, the Washington Football Team, the Miami Dolphins, the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars, Detroit Lions, LA Chargers, Denver Broncos, look out for that one, San Francisco 49ers, and the Arizona Cardinals. And now we're looking to our 2021 Week 16 leader, Monte Carlo, who is 12-4. And then our leaderboard for the Week 17 picks against the spread, it's topped by Big Ryan the Fat Guy, and yet another plug for the Big Ryan the Fat Guy membership, Corey Andy, who is also 9-5. And other notables is Go Ahead Eagles, Kev the Great, and I always like this name, Mussman the Busman, and our old friend Dylan Toddfield. Please give us a ring. I should have done the music. I don't have time to edit. Followed by 888, Cardona Misfits, Fat Guy's Best Friend. Do I have one? Is it Big Rye? I don't know. And El Putas, or Satuple, at 8-6, rounding out the top 10. Our leaderboard currently for the ATS NFL picks for the yearly is Colty Boy 69 at 141, 108, and 450, good for 56.6% against the spread, with 4 games on Billy 369. And what is that we got there? We got 8 games on Corey Andy. It is possible for anybody realistically in the top 10 to win, although very, very unlikely. Look how difficult it is. 10th overall is Untouchable Jay, and he has just 50.4% ATS. Very, very difficult. Nice to see Wook Dog at number 9, and Friend Mud at 130, 120, good for 52%. 56.6 though at the top. That makes sense, and that's why I always thought it was so funny when I read a YouTube comment. My daughter could pick better than 53%. Well, man, could I employ your daughter at 54%? Like, I just need the picks. Just tell me at what price. Is it that easy? It's not. It's not that easy. Look, think about, there's about 100 people that participate in this contest. So you graph that out. The top standard, the furthest standard deviation on the good side was 56.6%. And you could probably lump in Billy 369 as well. It's very, very hard, right? And these are stale lines. Like the contest, if I played it as a civilian, I could just, there's some strategy you could use that you could just ascertain closing line value, and you would beat us every year. You would, because we have to do this so early, and we have to choose early lines that we normally wouldn't, much like I did that big preamble in the Pittsburgh Baltimore game. So it is very, very, very hard to do this. And finally, we got our JS 715 name of the week honorable mentions. Selling Betty White's soul for a winning season. Crude. If only they paid out for all losing legs of a parlay. Just as impressive, eh? No, it isn't. You shouldn't parlay. It's like compounding failure. Can the NFC East win most improved division for 2021? I'm not sure that's fair. Enough snow already. Believe me, I know. Give me the dogs. I tend to do that when in doubt. 2021 was the year of the underdogs and visitors, but not every week. I guess that's true. Death by a Cassone. Jacksonville on the spread. What could go wrong? I know. And now we have our JSN 15 name of the week. I got snubbed for the All Madden team because I took a playoff. As you should. It should be 100 or nothing. Make your picks for Week 18 at www.bigridingthefatguy.com. $100 USD prize in Bitcoin to the regular season winner. Everyone in the top 10 is in line for that. So you better have a Bitcoin wallet, ColtyBoy69 or Billy369 or anybody in the top 10. Because I'm not making concessions. I'm sending the Bitcoin, not doing any more money orders. That's a big pain and a big waste. NFL picks against the spread Week 18. So I guess that's the conclusion of this video, so I can make those bets. I don't have any closing comments. I mean, I spoke to myself for 40 minutes. I think this is quite enough.